On the day that Boutros Boutros-Ghali is sworn into office, the translator slips up because he accidentally welcomes Boutros-Ghali as the new Secretary General of the United States. That error is quickly corrected.
So I count on the wisdom of this august body to recognize the difference.
A big part of Boutros-Ghali's support came from the Global South, from countries that were unhappy with how the IMF and the World Bank had been dealing with struggling economies.
You need to balance the economy, balance your books before you spend money on people.
So, Boutros-Ghali spends more than a year drafting a more radical version that he calls an agenda for development. And then he hands it over to member states for approval.
Classic UN, the General Assembly says we're going to set up a group to consider it. And it's called the Ad Hoc Open-Ended Working Group of the General Assembly on an Agenda for Development.
By the time the working group is finished, it's June 1997. That's months after Boutros-Ghali has left office and, coincidentally,
just before the East Asian financial crisis.
The crisis starts in Thailand and then it expands. Countries that had seen massive growth suddenly had foreign money pouring out of their economies.
And the IMF thought this was a kind of classic debt crisis of the kind that they dealt with in the past, and their prescription was massive austerity.
It was the opposite of what Boutros-Ghali had been calling for, and the effect on those economies was devastating.
And they had been growing at around 7% a year, and suddenly their economies were shrinking at 7% a year. So it was a real disaster.
But the agenda for development wasn't forgotten. His successor, Kofi Annan, took many of Boutros-Ghali's ideas into the Millennium Summit, where they were translated into the MDGs.
That was one of those agendas ahead of its time, but arguably an agenda that was influential in the future and tells us a lot about the kind of problems that we're still facing today.